It doesn't matter how hot it is, you should always bring a sweater everywhere.
This is true.
But, like, that's using up a lot of energy, and so
Yes,
it's bad
it
for the
is.
planet.
It is terrible for the planet, and yet.
And it's expensive for corporations.
Mm-hmm.
Won't be like this when I'm queen.
Excellent. Well, yes, I think there are many of us that would welcome a return to British rule.
British rule nothing, Australian rule.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And believe me, it's firm.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so I guess the first question is, what was your exposure to Doctor Who prior to being cast?
Well, we got Doctor Who in Australia. And so my doctor was really Patrick Troughton. I mean, I saw William Hartnell, but it was really Patrick Troughton. And I'm not sure whether I saw William Hartnell in repeats and things like that. I think, you know, we didn't get television until comparatively late in Brisbane. It was down south in Sydney and Melbourne. They got it a lot earlier than us. But, yeah. So, I mean, Doctor Who is very popular in Australia. And there is a show, a sitcom on Australian television, which is about Doctor Who fan club.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. And now I can't remember what it's called. Does anybody know this sitcom? No. Okay. I seem to remember it's called something like Outtakes, but I might be wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool. And so, how did, I'm always interested to hear how the casting process works. If it was, if it was something where you had to go through like a bunch of different screen tests and auditions, or was it more interviews?
Well, John Nathan Turner, who was the producer, saw 120 people for the part.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't know there were that many Australians who fitted the description in England. And he didn't want to see me because he didn't like my photo. And I don't blame him, I hated it as well. But it was all I could afford. And so I was with an actors cooperative at the time. And one of the actors wrote a letter to him saying, if you want somebody to play a bossy Australian, they don't come much bossier than this one. That's not true. As you can tell, I'm very easygoing and laid back, if not shy. And yeah, so he saw me only twice. I had to meet Barry Letts. I remember that.
He was the script editor?
No, Barry Letts was head of series and serials, I remember at the time.
Executive producer?
Yeah. So, he actually might have been Innes Lloyd who was head of series. Anyway, I had to meet those kinds of people, and they sort of met me and said, yeah. So
I've heard there was an obstacle to do with your height.
yeah, there was an obstacle to do with my height. So those of you who were here yesterday can go to sleep now for 2 seconds. Because what happened was John asked me how tall I was. And I said 5'2", minimum height requirement for an air stewardess in Australia. Lying, obviously.
Because you wanted 5'4" or above, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I said, of course, for the Eastern airlines like Singapore or Thai International, it's even shorter because the women tend to be smaller. That was a stroke of sheer genius.
It was, absolutely.
And anyway, he liked my moxie. There is a moxie running around here.
Yes, there is. Yes.
Different sort of different moxie, obviously.
Very cool. Well, one of the reasons why I'm super, super excited is to be meeting with you and talking with you is that the Fifth Doctor was my first Doctor. So you were one of my first companions. And as
good start.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was just in a panel with the first Doctor and what got us interested in the show. And I was explaining to people that in the science fiction that was out there at the time, whether it was, Star Trek or Battlestar Galactica or something, there weren't a lot of strong women.
No, I guess there wasn't.
And also, the nature of the adventure was very different, and it was much more eccentric as a show, you know, and had a lot of baggage, you know, and a lot of mythology associated with it. So it was a very, you know, and the TARDIS is a wonderful. Who doesn't want a TARDIS? I mean, absolutely. You know, I would have come here by TARDIS if I could, because you know, it's such a great way to fly.
If it gets you there to the right place.
That is true. That is true.
It is kind of like flying Delta.
Yeah.
You may not always get there at the time you think you're going to get there.
So, yeah, I forgot my question now.
I was commenting on the fact that there were not a lot of strong.
Oh, not a lot of strong women. Yeah, and I'm often surprised because I'll encounter people who will say, you know, I was really chuffed one year at Galley in LA because these women came up to me and said, oh, you inspired us to become scientists, and we're now working at NASA.
Wow.
That was really cool. And then there was another woman who gave me a medal because she had two, and she explained that she worked for the Air Force. She was in Bomber Command, and so she used to sit in the back of the plane supervising the battle formation.
Oh, neat.
And this medal that she gave me, during World War II, there was the US airmen shot down, and they had these memorable, they had these medallions made, which were to commemorate them graduating from military, Air Force Military Academy, I guess. And the resistance were going to execute them as Gestapo plants. And then they found these medallions on them, and that saved their lives.
Oh my
So
God.
now, those Air Force people carry these medallions. They've become part of their tradition. And she, for some reason, had a spare one that she gave me because Stephen inspired her. So I was really chuffed about that. Although I have to say I don't approve of bombing people. Unless I really don't like them. In which case, yes.
Unless they really deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, that was interesting.
Yeah, the other thing is that when I went to my first Doctor Who convention, it was one that Patrick Troughton was
Oh, Pat.
and I
So
had
naughty. So
Really?
naughty.
I sent the story.
No. There'll be children in the audience.
Fair enough. But yes, he was amazing. But I had not seen any of his stories yet.
Wonderful actor.
But just a fantastic person to listen to and to hear him tell all the stories. Back in that day, a lot of conventions were just sort of like a Q&A like this, and maybe some props to look at or something like that. But this one had costume contest, and I won the costume contest.
Where was it?
New Hampshire,
All right. Whereabouts in New Hampshire?
Concord, New Hampshire,
All right. Okay.
which is Concord, not Concord. You'll hear mispronounced all the time. But I wore wearing Keegan's white outfit with the strapless and the shorts and the little jacket.
You chose to dress I had no choice.
I know, it matched stuff that I had in my closet.
Okay. She's more peculiar than she looks.
You have no idea. But yeah, that brings up a good point. Of course, you know, prior to your era, we had Leela. But you know, the Romanas and everything, they dressed fairly conservatively. And then as we got into the 80s, it started getting a little bit more daring.
Did it? Oh, short skirts were daring. Okay. I grew up in the 60s.
That's fair.
So like, you know, oh no, I can't describe how we used to allude to them. No, because that's rude. But you know, if they hid your knickers in the 60s, people thought that they were really maybe getting a bit on the long side. not have cut it as daring in the 60s.
Oh, of course not, no.
Yeah.
But for a family show in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And after you, we ended up with Harry and the Bikini.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So yes, but.
That girl, you're always getting the puppies out.
Colin had lots to say. I remember. But yeah, I was, when I was thinking about, the different, outfits and things like that, you got to wear a lot of other type things, like the first episode that I saw was The Awakening, where you had the Queen of the
Oh,
Day dress.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So any favorite outfits? You said you didn't like the white shorts one, but
Hated it.
why'd you hate it?
Because it was uncomfortable.
Oh,
It was impractical.
that's very true.
And it wasn't very flattering. I liked the Edwardian dress I wore in Enlightenment.
Oh, yes.
I liked my final costume with the leather skirt.
Mm-hmm.
I liked my air stewardess's uniform. I thought that was a good costume.
Yeah.
I liked the whole retro thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like harking back to the sort of days when air travel was really glamorous and all
Yep.
that kind of stuff. So I quite like that. But other than that, not so enthused.
Okay. I know that there have been people who said that certain companions were there for the dads.
No, that was the line that was given to me by John. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's why I wasn't allowed to wear trousers.
Really?
Yeah. I was told I was there for the dads.
And how do you square that with being a mouse on legs?
I don't know.
Because
I just played it so that she was quite assertive. And I mean, the lucky thing was that she was meant to be a bit cantankerous.
Mm-hmm.
So the writing, and although it was a push for me to play that, I managed it.
It was a stretch for you as an actress?
Oh, huge stretch. So, yeah. And I think I was lucky in that I brought a lot to that crankiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea that there aren't too many sex symbols, which is what John wanted me to be. God help him. He was gay. So, yeah. He might not completely get it, do you know what I mean? There were no cranky sex symbols. Think about it.
Probably true.
So, I was a cranky sex symbol.
You had evil sex symbols and
Yeah, oh yeah, plenty of femme fatale.
Yeah.
But I wasn't femme fatale,
Right.
I was a femme cranky. Whatever the French is for irritable. Irritable, yeah. A femme irritable.
Very cool. So, after you had the time on series, and then you also did Big Finish.
Yeah.
Did they do any? Do you think they did anything different with your character in Big Finish, or was it just sort of continuing?
I think it was just a continuation and development, to be honest. I think it's still the same character.
Mm-hmm.
And, all of us will protect our character and go, no, she wouldn't say that, no, she wouldn't do that, no, that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember the first Big Finish that I did, Gary Russell said, talk me into doing Big Finish, because I had been saying no.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did one, and I got the script, and I thought, no, that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a bit of it, I thought. Tegan may be cranky and irritable, but she's not unkind.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't be unkind to somebody, and nor did I want that as a kind of example of any kind. There's an ethos that you try to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't ever want her to say, no, she's being unkind to whoever it was, I can't remember now, might be Matthew. And I said, no, she wouldn't do that. That's not what she would do. She'd get irritated with him, but she wouldn't be deliberately cruel. And there were a couple of occasions when I was they'd written the character so she was deliberately cruel. I won't do it.
Yeah. And writers and directors are receptive?
Yeah, they've got no choice.
Be assertive.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's difficult for me to be assertive, but I manage it.
So another thing that I loved about Keegan that was kind of unusual for the classic series and for the new series as well, she's one of the few companions that left on her own terms.
Is that so?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Martha Jones did in the new series, but we've got a lot of women that
Did Catherine Tate not leave on her own terms?
So no, the character had the knowledge of the universe, downloaded into her head, and it would have driven
The way
her
you do.
crazy. Yeah, well, like me, yeah. And it would have driven her mad, and so the doctor had to go in and wipe her memory of all of their adventures together, and it was
A bit like Men in Black.
yeah, and it was one of the most gut-wrenching ends for a companion, I think.
I don't remember that. I'm sure I thought I'd seen every one of that series, but I obviously missed a couple because I do seem to remember that I missed a few, but not many of David Tennant's. I try and watch almost all of them actually. I do miss a few.
But yeah, and since you mentioned that, I've always seen Donna as sort of the descendant of Keegan in
Oh, really?
the show. Yeah, absolutely.
I like Donna Noble. I thought Donna was a great character. But I mean, the companions of the new series, Sarah and I often talk of them with envy because they're more fulsomely written as characters than we ever were.
Yeah, and that was, again, that was something that I thought was, at least my perception of it at the time, was that the show in general was about the doctor
Yeah.
during that time, and the companions were just kind of along for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, I think we was really, in a way, we were supposed to be the eyes and ears of the audience, so we're the point of identification.
But I saw in a lot of your episodes, like Kinga or Snake Dance or things like that, a lot of the story was focused on your character,
Yeah, that's true.
and which I thought was refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I think I was lucky because I had, I wasn't a goody two-shoes. There was a clear line to write for, Tegan would lose her temper, go off and do something that would kickstart things happening. And
She was more of a catalyst than a lot of the other people.
exactly, she was. So that, that was useful for me. Yeah.
And I think it gave you a lot more opportunity as an actress, I would think,
Yeah.
to do different kinds of things other than scream and get rescued.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got a much better time of it than Sarah did. And I think, Sarah had a tougher time because, she was smart and she was nice. And those two things are quite hard to play. It's easier to play the cranky and the difficult.
It's easier to
Dropping.
write for.
And it's
than
easier,
cranky.
and it's easier to write. Yeah.
Yeah. And I loved Nika too.
Yeah.
But you're right, she wasn't interesting.
No, because, Sarah made her, I think what Sarah did with her was terrific. And I don't like it when we do shows. I've only done a couple of big finish that she isn't in, and I don't like it. I don't like it when Sarah's not there. She's the referee.
Okay.
Between Peter and I. Peter and I will give each other a lot of stick. And Sarah is there in the middle going, trying to keep the peace. Doesn't always work, but she can give it a try.
It makes for good stories.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, after you left the series, you did the women's film TV.
Yeah. I did a and I did bits and pieces of television like Minder and Holy Back Page and things. And then I did the English speaking theatre in Stockholm and a few things. But mostly, yeah, I was looking, as I said yesterday, I was looking at casting briefs and there was nothing for me to play. Because what happens for the women, and it's still largely true, is that they get into their 30s. And just as you're beginning to know what you're doing, as you are in any profession, once you get into your 30s, you begin to get more confidence and you've got a body of knowledge behind you, the roles disappear. For the men, that's not true.
Right.
But for the women, that's true. And it's slightly better now than it was then. It was just dreadful in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Absolutely dreadful. And I was just looking at all these casting briefs thinking, there's nothing here for me to play. There's no role for a woman of my age. And I thought, well, I can accept it or try to change it. And so that's why I got involved in setting up Women in Film and Television, and I ran it for the first 4 years. Within 12 months, we were as large as the New York chapter.
Wow.
After 12 years. So, the need was there.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Along those lines, I know that it's a frustration of mine that there are not more women behind the scenes on
Yep.
television.
Yeah.
How do
Now that's much better though.
Oh yeah, it is, something's better than nothing. But,
Because, there was Julie Gardner who worked with,
right, who's producing us,
who was a producer with Russell T.
Rachel.
Rachel Palahniah, and, various other female writers. So that's better than it was.
How do we make it, how do we get,
Oh, if only I knew. If only I knew. I mean, when because I've come back onto the board of Women in Film and Television a couple of times, and we did a research project with Skillset, which is the industry training body in the UK. And it didn't give us the answers that I would have wanted. There's a system here called positive deviance, which there's a positive deviance academy or school at Tufts University. And I was interested in seeing the ideas from that, having looked at people who succeeded and how they succeeded against the odds. What makes the positive deviancy thing is, in any group you'll get people who against the odds, against all odds, will succeed.
and then how do they do that?
And what is the factor that makes them succeed? And so I was taking it from that point of view, but if I'm honest, the research and the way it was done didn't get it. Didn't get it. So the answers weren't there. But there's a mentoring program with Women in Film and Television. And a couple of people I've subsequently met, who said that they were on the program and they found it hugely useful and what have you. So that's good. Is it me or are the lights going up and down a little bit? It's me, isn't it?
I don't.
They did that last night too.
Okay.
That happened.
So are aliens landing?
Possibly.
Well, she said it wasn't Klingons.
Yeah. She said repeatedly that it wasn't Klingon.
Okay, well, that's good. That still leaves the entire universe, but we shall see. So around this time last year, I had the opportunity to interview Peter.
Oh.
And
Never mind.
and he had some strong opinions on female doctors and whatnot.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sorry, that was 2 years ago, because it was before Jodie was cast, and he said that would never work. The doctor can't be a woman.
Well, in a funny sort of way, I understand what he means, where it's coming from. I disagree with him.
What does he mean?
Well, I think what he said was that it's a very male character in orientation, not a female character. And I sort of, that is the legacy. The thing that always worried me about it was that too much would be freighted on that transformation. So that if if somebody's cast as a female doctor, then it'll be like representing all women.
Right.
Instead of just being a character who happens to be female, and that is indeed what seems to have happened.
The Janeway problem, yeah.
Yeah, so, and you go, well, can we move beyond that?
Right.
And so, I do get what he means. I don't necessarily, my own feeling was that, in the last couple of years, there's a couple of things that have happened. One is that the whole gender fluidity issue has become much more prominent, and that there is a younger generation emerging who don't regard gender in the same way that my generation, Peter's generation, does.
I try to refer to the doctor as, doctor's pronoun now is singular they, because, the doctor has been male-bodied and female-bodied now.
Yeah. And he, and so, I've lost the train of thought, sorry.
You were saying about how things were different for Peter's generation and your generation.
Yeah,
in terms
so,
of
and
gender identity.
then within the show, that was I thought, well signalled and really well prepared with Missy.
Yes, absolutely.
And Missy, was hugely successful as a transformation of the Master's character. So I thought that was really well prepared, that the groundwork had been done, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And although Missy went very far over to the extremely feminine side, even though she very much kept the Master's characteristics, she was quite girly in many ways. And the 13th Doctor is more androgynous, I think.
I don't see that.
You don't see that?
I don't see that at all.
You don't see
No.
Missy as being feminine?
Yes.
Well, what do you mean by feminine? That's a whole other discussion.
Did try to kiss him.
Well, it doesn't. So,
Oh, I know why. It was a psychological manipulation, but
But the point about her is that she was, that her character arc and what she was trying to achieve were the same as they were for the Master.
very much.
And so I don't see Jodie's character. I think Jodie's character is more feminine than
Really?
Missy's. Yeah,
yeah, me too.
me too. Yeah.
In what respect?
I think she's a gentler character. And we
Gentler than the Fifth Doctor?
wait a minute, just let me talk.
Sorry.
She,
Also malphonitis. Sorry.
yeah. So she's, now I've lost the train of my bloody thought.
I'm so sorry.
She's gentler, and although that isn't necessarily a female characteristic, we think of it in those
Sure.
terms. So she's more caring in lots of ways, and more inclusive, and all those kinds of things. So the qualities that she brings to the role are traditionally thought of as very female qualities. She could equally well have been very cantankerous, or do you know what I mean? Any one of a number of characteristics, but in fact, as a doctor, I think it's quite feminine. They've really gone for what are thought of as traditional feminine qualities. That's my feeling.
I agree.
You done?
Yeah.
So can you tell us now about Project Motor House? That's one that I thought was very, very interesting in terms of carrying on, in many ways, sort of kind of what you were doing with the women in film and TV.
Yeah.
In terms of encouraging the next generation.
Yeah. So I moved down of London because I wanted a better sense of community, and I did a fan convention with Noel Clark, and Noel was talking about what was happening in the area where I was, and that High Speed 1 was coming in, was being connected up to where I now live in Ramsgate.
High-speed internet?
No, High Speed one
Rail.
is rail.
Okay.
So we benefit from the Euro-rail line,
Mm-hmm.
which goes south of us. And so it was worthwhile thinking about moving there because I could get to London quite quickly. And at the same time have a community, and I wanted to live by the sea and all those kinds of stuff. I was on the tube one day and I thought, if I never have to do another peak hour on the tube, it'll be too soon. You know, you're just jammed in and it's really horrible. So I was looking for somewhere to move to, and then when I moved there, the community had a lot of needs, and I got involved in trying to save a building, and then because I was trying to save a building and I was asking people what we needed and what we should do with it, then the youth work thing came forward as being a really strong need, and out of that grew the youth work. So the building now has been sold by the council, may God rot their souls, but the youth work very much continues.
Good.
So we're doing loads of youth work.
Good, very cool. Okay, so we're at a little bit past the half-hour mark, so do we have questions out there? Yes, please come up to the mic.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello. Hello.
hi.
So good afternoon again, welcome. Thank you for coming back to Atlanta. Did Doctor Who bring you to America for the first time?
No,
It did not.
no.
Can
I was in Atlanta in 1965.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And well, can you maybe tell us what you might have been doing then, but what your first convention experience in the United States was like?
Right, okay. So my father was doing research at Walter Reed Army Medical Headquarters. He was doing research on malaria. He was a parasitologist. And there was a conference of some kind in New Orleans. So we all drove down to New Orleans and came back through Atlanta. So that's how I came to be in Atlanta in 65, 66. And then, I've forgotten the second bit of your question.
First American
first
convention.
My first American convention, sorry. Do you know what? I don't think I had enough caffeine this morning. Anyway, yes, my first American convention was in Chicago. Oh my God, how hot can it get in July in Chicago? And I'm an Australian. It was really warm. And I've never seen anything like it. You know, there were people dressed in costumes, there were people who were wildly enthusiastic, and they were so friendly. And my limited acquaintance with fandom in England, they hadn't been as friendly. I mean, they're now much friendlier than they used to be. But back in the 80s, there was a lot of really petty politics and things going on in Doctor Who fandom in the UK. And that wasn't pleasant necessarily to be around. So it was much nicer. And then in 1987, the PBS and BBC got together and they had a Pantechnicon going around the country. And I did loads of conventions when that was the year Patrick Troughton died here in Atlanta.
That says Macon.
Columbus, Ohio. Sorry.
Columbus, Georgia.
Columbus, Georgia. Sorry. Sorry. Yes. I knew it was Georgia. And I picked up a lot of his gigs. And so I did I went to places I would never go, which was great. South Dakota. Loved Rapid City, South Dakota.
Cool.
Absolutely loved it. And I would never have thought to go there. And then, you know, there were all sorts of places. I got to go to the Grand Canyon, which, although we spent all this time in the United States, as a kid, I never got to go there. And I think I went to, people aren't sure whether it was Fantasia, is that right? Or Dragon, the first Dragon Con that I went to in 1987 here.
Could be.
Anyway, but Doctor Who was a very important part of the PBS fundraising scheme in the 80s. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
first off, I'm from Melbourne, so naturally you're one of my favorite companions.
Oh, Melbourne.
So
I lived in Melbourne for a bit.
I lived in Melbourne for 7 years, then moved to Newcastle for 3.
Right.
Then moved here 6 years ago.
Okay.
So as a companion, who's your favorite companion other than Tegan?
Rose. Billy Piper. Billy Piper's she was amazing. She was amazing. I think Billy Piper is a great actress. I mean, what I mean is, I think she will be Dame Billy Piper. I saw her do Yerma, which she's done in London's West End and on Broadway. And she won a lot of acting awards and deservedly so. It was just amazing, her performance. Peter Davison said that he got booed at a convention, which, you know, God bless that convention. No, I don't mean it. I love him, really. And he was asked who his favourite companion was, and he said Billy Piper. And that's when he got booed. And I said, well, next time somebody asks you, just tell them it's my favourite companion as well.
And what about old series?
In the old series, other than myself, that's a difficult one. That's a difficult one. I think that's to do, I don't know really, it's so long ago.
Sarah Jane's probably my favorite, because she had a lot of the same kind of spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be Sarah Jane, because her character was sort of, had a more definite, you know, the writing was sort of so much better for her than it was for a lot of the girls. And the same, and I mean, in all fairness, the writing for Billy Piper was really good, but then she took it to this amazing level.
I thank you.
You're welcome. What are you doing here?
Family reasons.
All right, okay.
Hey, I'm just a big fan, and I wanted to ask you about Resurrection of the Daleks.
Oh yeah, my last story.
Absolutely, like, I thought, I remember when I watched it, I was like, oh, this is a really violent story.
It was a violent story.
And then at the end, the reason Tegan leaves is because she said a lot of good people died today. And it's like the doctor doesn't quite understand, but he's sad, and I thought Tegan,
I think he gets it.
he gets it.
I think he gets it, but I think he said, you know, them's the breaks.
Right, yeah.
Is how he sees it, whereas she sort of says, look, you know, I just can't do that. I can't take that on anymore. I'm not battle hardened.
Right, and I thought too, like, it really shows, as much as he's our hero, he's still kind of an alien versus Tegan, who was grounded, and like she's like us, you know, like you couldn't quite take that in a way. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I thought it was a beautiful scene. I really did.
Thank you.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that one, because you know, that's the pacifism argument, isn't it? You know, because but basically what I think she's saying is that she personally just couldn't cope with the battle that is necessarily part of his life.
Yeah.
And that it was time for her to stop. Yes, to stop doing it.
Well,
But what I don't like about the new series is in the last few years, death has not been death.
Don't get me started.
That's not right.
Yeah.
It
loses its meaning.
It loses its meaning. It doesn't have any significance then. But also, to me, the show was always about helping to rehearse those issues or help people. You know, the number of people who come up to you who say, oh, you helped me through a really difficult time or whatever. How does, you know, you need people to share your grief, or, do you know what I mean? Oh, Tegan would have understood that I was grieving for, do you know, my parent or whoever has died, or a sibling, and any of those awful life-changing events that people have to confront, you know, that often does happen. And that people escape into that world.
Absolutely.
And they find solace there. And I
don't see how you do that if, hello, we can just save them again. There's that, which I don't like. And I don't like the fact that they fly with the TARDIS doors open. Time and relative dimensions in space. You cannot fly with those doors open because nobody knows where the hell you are. You are not in a real place. You turn that time rotor on, I'm sorry, you cannot. And now, while I'm on a roll, I just remembered something else I don't like. And now, what happens is you see people opening the door and going straight into the console room. No, wrong. Well, no, you don't see, you never see somebody coming straight from outside in our day, because there was this magical barrier that happened off camera that you crossed. You crossed over this magical threshold into this new dimension. And now you just open the door and you walk on in, and you're there in somewhere new.
What's up with that?
No! No, because there's got to be a buffer zone where something else happens. And you never know what that something else is.
Interesting, yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you so
Went
much.
off on one there.
It's all good, yes. Absolutely.
So we talked about Tegan leaving the doctor under her own volition. Do you ever imagine what she might be doing in the current day?
Yeah, I have done on occasions. I think she might have given up with the air stewardessing. I think by the time she left the TARDIS, she was over the whole I need to travel thing. You know, because the thing about Tegan was, Tegan wanted to travel, and in the best traditions of drama, she gets more than she bargained for. Be careful what you wish for. That's the old trope in storytelling. So I'm assuming that she wouldn't do that she would go, I think she would go back to Australia. And I think she would be based there. And she probably might be running a company, I would think. I think she is quite bossy. So she would need to be running an enterprise of some kind. That's my feeling. Is Pierce in the room? Okay, sorry. Pierce, we've got to, before the end of this session, this is the best accent I've ever heard in all of my years of coming to America. I love the way he says appreciate and because. Fantastic, Pierce. Are you going to say those two words?
Yeah, I had to get up there, microphone.
You can say it from there.
It's fantastic.
Speaking as the 12th Doctor with a Southern accent, that's something new. But I appreciate that you came here because it meant a lot to me, because you're one of the companions I want to meet at the top of my list, and I've already told you that.
I think we need a doctor with a Southern accent. Definitely. Oh, I love that accent. Thank you, Pierce.
And because of that, I just want to say thank you again.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Would you talk a little bit about having to run in high heels and also doing the Charleston and Black Orchid?
Okay. Running in high heels wasn't such a problem, to be honest with you, because I had high-heeled everything those days. You know, I had high-heeled Wellington boots. And, because I'm short. So that wasn't a problem. Mountain climbing in high heels and a tight skirt, that was a challenge. So yeah, I didn't worry about the running, the mountain climbing, yeah. What was the rest of the question?
Black Orchid and had.
Oh, Black Orchid and the Charleston. Well, I used to do ballet, and so it wasn't that big a stretch. Anybody can do the Charleston anyway, it's pretty easy.
You were very good.
Oh, thank you.
I love the costume too.
Oh, did you? You like that costume? It was pretty and it was freezing. Because we were pretending it was an English summer's day. And an English summer's day is often not very warm. There's no...
Good acting coming in.
Yeah, I'll say. It was so cold. Yes, darling.
Yes, after you left the show, you began your second life, and you spent many years you resisted coming back to the character.
Yeah.
What was your turning point that made you want to come back and work with Big Finish and revive your character?
Well, I think when I decided that I wasn't going to be an actor anymore, I think I needed to go through the door and close it behind me. And then what happened was that a lot of the people that were now getting into adulthood and were more confident and would come up to me and tell me that what the character and what the show had meant to them as kids. And that really I found moving. So you then understood that you'd been in a very privileged place. It's a privilege to be a treasured part of somebody's growing up, or indeed present, So although at the time, after leaving the show, I think I paid a price in terms of, everybody knows you as Tegan, we can't cast you as. There was a certain amount of that, in addition to the, hardly any roles to play. So, it had been a double-edged sword. Ultimately, that privilege counts for an awful lot, A. And B, Peter Davison was in the West End a lot. I was an agent by this stage, and I was we both members of the Soho House, which is a club in London. Actually, it's now a club in New York and LA and everywhere, but in those days there was one, and it was in Soho in London. And I used to see him, and so
You were still in touch.
we were still in touch, and then gradually Gary Russell, who was then the producer on Big Finish, talked me into doing one. I said I'd do one.
And I think it was a very moving performance, actually. Were you having cancer from doing all your time travel? Is that the right one? Brain tumor.
Right,
Brain tumor.
okay.
Right.
I remember, because when I did get cancer,
Yeah.
and was diagnosed with cancer in 2012, saying to Stephen Moffat, sent me an email, and Russell T, and they're really sweet. The Doctor Who family was really good to me, actually. And I said to him, I said, what on earth was in that time rotor in the 1970s? Because at the time I was diagnosed, Lizzie had died the year before. Caroline John, I was diagnosed in June, which is the same month that Caroline John died, age 71, which is quite young. And then in July, just before I was starting my radiation and chemo, Mary Tan died. And that was really awful. And so there was this sort of, I mean, I was trying to make light of the situation, as it were, but in fact it was. You did look at it and think, ooh. So there was just that influence. And then I was terribly worried that the charity that I was starting, Project Motor House, that would all fall and they, you know, it's like, what can we do to help? And I said, well, funny you should mention that, because I figure that cancer is good for emotional blackmail. Could we do a fundraiser? And you know, would you and David do a fundraiser? I don't know that David had done a fan convention at that stage. I think he did his first fan convention for me. And then the companions said they wanted to do one, and then Peter Capaldi got cast, and he was Noel's mate. So I asked Peter to do one, and it was his first fan convention as well. So, yeah. So in the end, cancer proved to be my boon, although not for others, unfortunately. And it was an awful time because one of my closest friends was diagnosed at the same time, and she died and I didn't. So it was really quite horrible. But there was sort of silver lining.
Very glad we're still here.
Thank you.
Well, it's funny that is how we come to this point, because it is just about time for us to say goodbye. So I think that is the perfect way to end it. Thank you all very much for coming. And thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.